I would like to welcome Barry and Rosalind Hage, two of the ceramicists that do our show. And we also have here Robert Miller, a ceramicist and professor.
Barry and Rosalind, thank you so much for joining me today. It really is an honor. I've been following your work for many years. Let's let our audience know where you're currently located and where your studio is located.
Welcome to our home, Robert. And we're in Long Beach, California, and now our studio is here at the house also.
Now, a little bit about your background, guys. A little bit about where you went to school. Can you share a little bit of that with us? You have quite a history.
I got into art in college at Long Beach State, Cal State, Long Beach. Second year there, I started out thinking I was going to learn to be an architect, changed to business, and then soon after that, I took an elective class in clay, and I really liked it. I had a friend that was taking clay classes at Ceramicist, and he thought that I would really enjoy a clay class there at Long Beach State, and I did. I loved it. So eventually I changed majors to art, graduated from Long Beach State with a degree in clay, and got accepted to UCLA in the master's program. And the year that I got accepted to UCLA was the year I met Roz, and she was just ready to start teaching. She taught elementary school for 11 years. And while our business, the studio, grew, we eventually started traveling outside of California. And then just 11 years into that, Roz decided she wanted to start traveling with me. And she was also an artistic person, and we work really well together. We don't fight, we don't hassle. And it just became a fun thing, traveling from California first to Arizona, then Texas, and eventually to the East Coast. Lots of shows in Florida and up and down the East Coast.
We had a big wholesale line. We were like in galleries and also museum shows. And then in the early 2000s, things changed in the world. And so we came back home and redid our studio and started having studio openings and shows there and coming back locally, and came back to the Beverly Hills show. We had done it for 10 years, left, and then came back in the early 2000s, and we've done it twice a year since then, and love it.
That's amazing. And I love that you're a couple, especially in ceramics. There's been such a history with couples like Otto and Vivica, that you guys have been working together, making these great, sculptural ceramics for so many years. And the love you have for each other is just so wonderful. Let's talk about the work a little bit. You started to get into it. So I've looked at a lot of your work over the years, and there's been quite a range from high fire ceramics, which for people who are new, that would be your stoneware and porcelain, to earthenware, low fire, and a variety of glazes. Could you talk about some of the process you're using and temperature in your current work?
Sure. When I was at Long Beach State, it was almost all high fire work, and a lot of raw clay, not so much interested in glazes, but form and raw clay. And really, I learned how to be a really good potter, and I'm still using the pottery techniques in the pieces that we're doing today. Almost everything we do now it's got thrown parts, extruded parts, slab press molded parts, all in the same piece. And if I didn't have that background in wheel throwing,
With Dr. Yuri.
Dr. Yuri was a great instructor. Dr. Ramsey at Long Beach State too.
Yeah.
And so then it was almost all high fire, but I was fooling around a little bit with lusters before I graduated from Cal State Long Beach and went to UCLA. And then things changed a lot. There was a lot of influence from Northern California at that time, a lot of low fire sculptural work, different, it's totally new to me, but I really got interested in that. And I met some great artists. Richard Shaw was one of my heroes. Adrian Sachs also, and the head of the department when I was there used to take us to Adrian's studio and see what he was up to then. And it was just really fascinating to see what else can be done with clay. And eventually we became mostly low fire. So instead of cone 10, it's more cone 06, 05 and 06. And I'm using commercial glazes mostly. I don't formulate my own. And things got to be more figurative than functional, more fun for us. And I think our customers enjoyed it too. They like to see us grow. I think there's something that you can recognize in our earliest work and still see it in what we do today, but it's evolved.
We talked about that because people like to collect our work, and we figured, well, let's have something common. And so one of the things is it's black and white, and the black and white designs, and then color as an accent. And those black and white designs have continued. They grow, like we got into doing some like sort of tattoo art looking work, but but it's all black and white, and all these designs we've had pretty much over the years.
Now, you mentioned luster, and I see luster. Now, a lot of our audience may not know what luster is. So after you glaze it, then you put an overcoat on it, which would be your luster. And want to talk about the lusters you're using?
Well, they're metallic lusters, and we use mostly either gold or palladium. And you brush it on, it looks like a syrup in a little expensive, tiny little bottle. But if too much is a little over the top, but it's a nice decorative feature on a piece to really accentuate certain parts of the work.
Now, I see these gorgeous teapots and these totems. Do you have a particular object that you really love making that really inspires you?
I still like making the teapots, and we started making smaller non-functional teapots, highly decorative pieces years ago, and we're still doing that. And I still enjoy putting all the pieces together. Lots of parts in those pieces, and that's kind of the fun thing for me.
But they also grew into the totems. You can see the same forms in our teapots as in the totems, and those stack. And you can change them around, and we have a lot of fun with our clients and deciding the way they want their totem to look. And so it's called stackers, and then they all have their own theme and personality.
Now, you guys have been traveling all over the country. You've done both museum, gallery shows, a lot of these art fairs as well. What do you find meaningful about participating, in these events?
The people, the clients. I mean, I'm just thrilled that they want to come out and come to an art show.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an effort. And then when they come into your booth, it's an honor. With my teaching background, I feel like I'm still teaching. And that's what makes it comfortable for me, because I can sit there and talk about the pieces and the process. And Barry's the master potter, and he knows all the techniques and stuff, but we both enjoy the clients.
Now, I know you've done the Beverly Hills Art Show sometimes twice a year. You've been involved for many years. It's fantastic, and I always love seeing you guys there. Do you find that there's always a new clientele, or do you get a lot of repeat clientele?
They're religious followers. They're there certain people are there every time we do the show. And it's interesting, you see the new artists that come to do the show, but we see the same people cruise the show every year and now it's going on like 40 years or so. We did the very first show when it was a fair in the park.
The gardens.
In the gardens, yeah. So we've seen a lot of those people, and a lot of those people have become good friends. So, and that's all over the country. All the shows we've done, we've met people that are still.
And they invite us into their homes to stay, and it's been wonderful. It's something you never ever have. When you go to a community and you stay with them and you're doing the show, it's like a whole nother world that you wouldn't see if you were just coming into a convention.
During these difficult times that we're in now, and that a lot of galleries especially are closed, a lot of the venues are temporary on hold. How are you guys reaching the clients that are desperate to find you?
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
I think
for
this is
today.
a great idea.
You know, this is the first time I've done Zoom. Just learned 2 days ago.
You're doing a great job.
And you know, so it's like it's called an evolution. And you have to adjust. And one thing about artists, they can do that. And then if you're not selling, then you're working on your work and you're coming up with new ideas. You have to.
Maybe we could just take a minute or two and do the PowerPoint so they could see some detailed images of your amazing ceramics.
Well, this is a lidded jar, and we did a series of pieces with tattoo patterns, and this is one of them. We usually do 4 or 5 or 6 pieces, different pieces, but using the same techniques just to see if it's working.
And those are all hand painted. I did the bottom part and Barry did the top.
Now, I notice in a lot of your work, the bases, the pedestals, seem to be a big part of, these sculptural teapots.
I was influenced by an article. I don't know if Adrian Sachs wrote it or he was just interviewed, but he said that a base is as important as the piece on top, that they should relate, but one shouldn't be less than the other.
Well, this is Hawaii. That's called serpent pineapple. And
we're beach people, so we're influenced by Hawaii. We spent a lot of time in Hawaii, also the East Coast, and so a lot of our stuff is beachy. And pineapples, turns out, are popular because of Hawaii, but also in the South, it's a sign. It's a welcome sign. So people relate to in the South relate to the pineapples.
And we were just in England in September, and we saw pineapples everywhere. So, I wanted to go back and do some research and, because we just love the form and that it's all hand sculpted, the top pineapple by Barry, and then we hand decorate everything else.
There's a luster firing around the base of that piece too. I don't know if it shows up that well on it.
It does. It shows the luster. That's the gold at the bottom. Now, about how many firings does it take when you create one of these pieces?
The bisque firing and then normally 3 other glaze firings, because I have to fire the glazes separately so that a lot of times one's right on top of the other. So it's easier and better to fire each glaze separately. So it's usually a bisque, 2 or 3 glaze firings, and then the final firing is the luster.
With that many firings, do you lose a percentage? Do you find work wants to crack?
No, I'm still using a throwing body that I used to use. It's a high fire body, but I put low fire glazes on it, but I bisque fire higher than normal to cone 1, and then I go back with 05 glazes.
And after 55 years, he's pretty darn good.
Yeah, I don't lose pieces. Drying is critical, so I'm way better at not losing pieces by having more patience. Well, that's a nice lidded jar with the blue bird on top, and we made a series of lidded jars on bases with little sculptural pieces on that relate to the rest of the piece too.
And we've done a lot of urns for people and their pets. Custom.
Final resting place. That's another Hawaiian influence piece, the Hawaiian shack with a pineapple. And we grow black bamboo in our backyard. And depending on when you cut it, sometimes it's darker than other times, but that's the application on the handles is from our black bamboo. That too, that's both the tattoo pattern and the Hawaiian pineapple.
And a tablecloth design on the handle. That's a typical, Southeast Asian design.
Now, I take it all your glazes, you're not spraying or dipping. I take it you're brushing on, you're hand painting each and every piece.
Right. And that piece, most of the pieces, the base is a slab. The sides of the teapot are slab constructed. The spout is wheel thrown, and the handle is extruded, and then a little sculptural pineapple on top. That was one of our first pieces that I thought really worked well, trying to have a base and a teapot that all worked well together.
That's called Elephant Walk.
Now, it seems like a lot of your inspiration comes from nature.
Totally.
Mostly, yeah.
We love our critters.
So that piece, I made some molds for rabbits, and I used 4 of those rabbits to hold the base for the teapot. and then a little sculpture of a rabbit on top.
That's called Rabbits and Roses. And those roses were handmade by my aunt, who lived to be 93 years old. And when she was in her 90s, she was making us porcelain roses. And she used to work for in the 1950s, she worked for a studio. And I was a little girl, I'd sit there and visit her, and she and I'd make roses together.
I don't know that there is actually but there was a movement back in the 60s, and I think it's still going on. California has turned out a lot of great potters. But I don't know if there's an official movement still.
I think we went through a lot of the questions, or a few of them that went up. Now, our audience, you know, it's not the same seeing them on Zoom as seeing them, you know, the PowerPoint definitely helps. How does the audience find you? Can you give us a website, you know, Instagram, your social media contacts?
I have a Facebook account. It's Hage Stoneware, Hage Stoneware. And then we also have Instagram, which I really like, because I can just shoot up the images as soon as we make them and sell them. And that's also Hage Stoneware, Hage Stoneware. And you can Google us. We're all over the internet from all the years that we've done clay. And it's Rosalind Hage.
Thank you so much for your time.
This is for that to happen.
Thank you so much.
Robert.
We appreciate all of you.
I love your work.
Thank you.
Thanks again.